I think being a trans person, some of the responses I see around me when it comes to the topic of trans people or just this concept of transgender is that this is either a very complex topic, very complicated. This is something that's very new. I think this is a way that some people perceive it. That it didn't it wasn't around before so much. And I think one more thing is that this idea that this topic and even these people, like transgender people, there is maybe an appropriate space for them to be in, and maybe even in a more appropriate time, like maybe in the future, And then there are all these spaces and times in which it is not appropriate, like they do not belong. When I came out as trans to my parents, it was around 2010, and I was in my mid-20s. And I remember specifically I was talking to one of my parents, and sometimes I avoid saying certain words, or I have trouble saying words. It's just a way that I talk. So I might talk around it or spell or do something different. But anyway, so my parent, he is my DAD, my dad, and I remember when I came out to him, at first, for the first 1 minute or so, he was a bit alarmed. He was very supportive when I came out as gay in my teens, and he's just overall as a person, he's just very relaxed and a very creative and just kind person. And in the first minute or two, he was a bit alarmed because things that he had heard about being trans or anything like that, he was worried about me going through major procedures, or that I would take something and I would become ill and whatnot. And this is a man who does not go to the doctor or to the hospital and is taking various medications and things, right? So it was first 1 or 2 minutes, his reaction was about that. And then I reassured him, and partly because of his connection with me, and he knows me, right? And so he felt calm pretty quickly, And then I remember the next thing he was saying, because he's somebody, he's always his mind is not closed, he's he will think and imagine and these different things. And so the first thing he said when he had felt more relaxed is he said, we have this. He said, we, as in he's talking about our people, the Tibetan. He said, we have this kind of trans-ness, something, right? And he kind of used the word a fluid gender. And he mentioned somebody, and I have trouble saying the name, but the artwork you'll see accompanied with this video, right? And this is the person within this card, right? And I'm using the word person because I have trouble saying the word Buddha, which is a word for an enlightened being, an enlightened person, somebody who's attained a lot of awareness, right? And it might be hard to see, but you can probably see it around you, but this person carries something in their right hand. It's like a long blade. And this blade, this sword is used to cut through things that will obscure your mind and keep it from having clarity. And I know him, and all young Tibetan people know him, because we're always told as students, this is who you pray to, so that you have a mental clarity and good recall when you need to take your exam, so you can pass that test or something. And my dad brought them up, and he said, we have a lot of beings, many of these enlightened beings who, he said, you can't tell what their gender is, And then he mentioned this person as an example. He goes, this person is very beautiful, and you don't know, are they this gender or this gender, or maybe it's like combined both, you don't know, or maybe there's no particular gender attached. And my dad just was sharing this, just like, this is something that has been not just part of my upbringing, part of his upbringing. It's something that's very much like this being, as any Tibetan, will know, very much belongs in Tibetan reality, and is very appropriate to Tibetan experience. Really does belong, and that just stayed with me. And then I remember it was maybe 10 years after that or so. It was 2020, and I had started to be in touch with Tibetan people in the place where I'm recording this right now, right? It's a very large place, New York, City. And I started being in touch with a lot of Tibetans who were either trans or queer or gay, or just, they use these different words for themselves. And then there was a group who are here in New York. And it was 2020, we're staying in contact a bit. And I remember, I don't know if I shared a story or something online that has, this a different picture, of this person. And I think I shared it, and I made maybe a little comment about gender fluidity or androgyny or something. And I remember I received a response from somebody who lived here in New York, and he's a queer Tibetan man, and it was this picture, and the picture was an embroidery that I realized he was making. And I knew he could paint, but I didn't know he could do this as well. And the embroidery, I could tell, was of this person. And it was so beautiful, and immediately, I could feel these things. And we didn't exchange that many words, but I said, please keep, as you're making it, please continue to let me see it if I can. And he was like, yeah, of course, And then I remember when he completed it, and I just, I thought it was great, and I requested it to be part of this exhibit, because I think that sometimes when you come to a museum, you think that, these things, they exist in a certain time and a certain kind of this mystical place, somewhere, and Tibetan art, Tibetan art, is not just something that links to Tibet, but the Tibetan people have known how to make this art, And this young Tibetan man, I was thinking about that he is creating this thing that can fit in his hand, And I was thinking about, he's here in New York, I'm here, we have come a long way from where we began. He was born in Nepal, right? I was not born here within this part of the world, right? And then our parents come from Tibet, and there's a lot, when you have to leave your land because there's a major crisis, and in order to stay alive, you have to leave. Or you don't have to. There's some stayed behind, some left, and that's how our relations got split, right? We have people we're related to in Tibet who stayed and some who left. And the thing is, when you leave, people who left, they're not just a flattened version of human beings who just left and they're in crisis, right? The people who left are people who, they know how to grow food, they know how to make art, they know how to create a bridge, they know how to write poetry, language, all these different things, right? And so the people who left who made art, right, whether that's music or an art that's something not musical, right, something more visual maybe, you can't always take the large paintings and these quote-unquote great works of art that you may see here in this museum, Some of these pieces we no longer have the chance to even keep them if we want to, right? They leave our hand in a way that we don't want, and then we like have to come to different places to be able to see them, right? But this young queer man, he was able to make something that, if you think about it, if he was leaving Tibet and he was like having to go on this very long journey, these are things that he can take with him as he's leaving. This is something that he can even make along his journey as he's leaving, right? This is like, and I'm sure there's people who know how to make art who are also created along that path, you know? And yeah, that's just what I want to say, is that I requested that to be here because it felt very sweet that both he and I had this way to kind of connect and see this person, and at the same time it wasn't just him and me, right? My own DAD, like my own parent, this comes to mind for him when his child comes out to him as trans. And I just think that as trans people, we belong and have already been present in so many different ways. And you know, maybe if we like listen and pay attention to our connections, we might see them more. But anyway, that's it.